Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another exciting session. Let's see if, yeah, I can see people starting to comment. Please let us know from where you guys are joining us. And we'll start the interview in 2 minutes. I have Alex and Jamila both joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. I see someone is saying, ever smiling, JJ? Yes. Although I'm nervous, but I'm still smiling, trying to cover up my nervousness. With a cup of coffee.
Cool.
Dallas, it's again, we have people so dedicated, and it's just so great to see.
Someone is
What
asking,
is it? 3 a.m., 4 a.m.? My God.
Alex, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Why is your voice so sleepy?
Reasons, my friend. Reasons. Yeah. 3 a.m., 4 a.m., look at that. And I'm sleepy because I went to bed around 4 a.m. So looking at that people wake up at 4 a.m., it's like, wow. Isn't it where you go when you go to bed, actually? Oh, yeah. No, it's not 3 a.m. for me. I'm from a privileged bunch sitting in Europe having 10 a.m. on the clock. So. Oh, yes.
someone is asking here, where is Chris?
Chris will not be able to join us today. It will be, me, Alex, and Jamila holding the fort for you guys.
Yeah, but Chris,
that's all you're gonna get. Sorry.
Yeah, like it or not.
Take it or not, right? Oh, someone is saying, we're so excited to see amazing interview. Well, we will see how amazing it will be. JJ is super nervous. Someone is saying, Alex is the HR. Alex, are you HR?
Yeah. I'm switching roles in a way. Isn't that normal? Like, isn't it making it more natural? Do people actually come to interviews like, I'm fully prepped. You can't scare me, so I don't care. I think it's already on psychopathic sort of spectrum. If it's if you're
Someone is
not
asking,
nervous
where is
at all.
Ashish? So Ashish is on vacation. He will be joining us for week 12. So yeah, next week also he will be on vacation, though he's helping us with creating cool teasers for us. But yeah, he'll be joining us back on week 12th when he'll be back from vacation.
Cool.
Yeah, those teasers, those posters you see, this is all Ashish. I don't know. He might have like a side hustle in design or something. Because it's too good for a trainer.
Okay, so should we start? We are almost 4 minutes into the session.
Should we? Shall we?
Okay, so Alex, I'll put you off camera and it will be
Sure.
me and JJ.
And then surprise me when they'll put me back without a warning.
Yeah, I'll let Alex bomb in between, ask few questions, and then.
Someone is saying, I'm not sure how Prasad would ask tough questions after seeing JJ's smiling face. Well, when JJ is nervous, she's not smiling at all. So you'll see now.
No, but that's a right thing, like, so see, as affable and as personable you will be in an interview, it will make it a more of a conversation than a interview. So yeah, on the other side of the table always there is a person, right? So make that connection. A smiling face always helps.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so should we get started? How are you feeling today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good too. Thanks. Yeah, you are stuck with me for another hour or so. Uh,
Well, likewise. I mean, it's not just me stuck with you.
yeah. Uh, so, before we start, let me introduce myself. Uh, I'm a principal partner solutions architect here at AWS. I've joined AWS in October 2019. So, yeah, it's been more than a couple of years for me now. uh, yeah, I started as a .NET developer. Moved out to become, a lead consultant. Did a lot of consulting, .NET architect lead before joining AWS, and here I am as a AWS solutions architect.
Great.
Uh,
Thank you for the introduction.
yeah, so yeah, we can probably start with a quick 1 minute rundown of your background and how you evolved into the role you are in today.
Great. Thank you for your time, first of all. So I'm Jamila. I'm an application support engineer at any company. I have a bachelor in economics, and I'm Harvard University data science specialized professional. I'm currently working at a fintech company where I'm troubleshooting and helping customers based on that specific SaaS application. Yeah, this is about me.
Okay, so why do you think that this role is a fit for you, solutions architect?
Yeah, well, when I saw the job description, I thought it might fit my background because I have I know some programming languages such as RStudio. I've done some sales analysis in the previous company, and also I thought it's not only based on the technical background, but also you need to have some like good communication skills, like social skills, where I think my personality might fit. And being in the current role, I'm currently interacting a lot with the customers, and I think and based on the data that I have 100% of customer satisfaction rate in the 18 consecutive months. I think I will definitely fit for the role.
Cool. That's interesting. Uh, okay, so what we'll do is that probably we'll start with a few technical questions,
Mhm.
and then we will switch gears in between to some behavioral questions, and then at the end you will be having some time, an opportunity for you to ask me any questions that you might have.
Yeah, sounds good.
But before starting, do you have any questions before we start? Like anything about the role or anything about the company?
I think I will keep my questions towards the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Okay, so starting with few technical questions.
Mhm.
What is the difference between high availability and disaster recovery?
Before giving the differences, I'd like to give an introduction. What is high availability, if it's necessary? High availability is basically is a characteristic of a system which aims to ensure that an agreed level of operational performance, usually uptime, for higher than a normal period. Where disaster recovery basically picks up where high availability fails, by meaning that disaster recovery can be as simple as backup and restore, or it can be complex by taking into account RTO and RPO, meaning recovery time objective and recovery point objective. I know. Would you like me to go over RTO and RPO as well, or?
So, okay, yeah, you touched upon RTO and RPO. So let's dive deep into it about Why would a company would need a low RTO or a low RPO, or vice versa? When would a company would be thinking about a high RTO and a high RPO?
Um, so to be honest, it depends on the company. So for some companies, it is crucially important to have like seconds of recovery time objective, by meaning that it is the maximum amount of time where system can be down before it's recovered. But for some other companies, it is absolutely okay to be down if it's not mission critical for a couple of hours, where recovery point of objective is the amount of data loss you can afford. Again, for some systems, it can be okay to lose day worth of data, especially if it's caching data, or if it's non-production or non-customer related data. Or for others, it might be like minutes or seconds. So it depends on the customers. If you can give me like
So,
specific use
yeah,
case,
okay.
maybe.
From what I understand is that uh, having a seconds RTO or a RPO would be beneficial for a company in case if they would not like to lose any data, or they would like to recover quickly from what you have explained. What is the drawback of having that kind of setup, having a low RTO and a low RPO?
Well, I can say that it is quite expensive, by meaning that if you are having a disaster recovery plan where if your system goes down, you need to be immediately up and running, then it means that all your infrastructure is being replicated across the region. Like in another region where you can just switch on all the resources and it will take you a couple of seconds where your system up and running. Yes, it is ideal specifically for some companies where they cannot afford even seconds or minutes of being down. But on the other hand, it is costly.
Okay. Can you dive deep into a few strategies of disaster recoveries like hot redundancy or warm redundancy?
So I remember there was a graph somewhere. So it was going like from left to right, saying that cold redundancy, it's basically the backup and restore, which is the cheapest option. Warm redundancy, where your resources are idle and in a small batch, where you can basically have nearly the same workload but in a smaller size, and you can turn it on once your current system is down. And the hot one is that it is always on and running in somewhere else as well, like in another region. And if your system in one region is going down, you can switch it on in the other region, it will go live. And also it depends on the cost, of course. If you are going from left to right, it will be the cheapest option will be cold backup and restore, but it will take you probably hours. Where on the right side, if it's multi-site active, then it will be costly.
Cool. Okay. Moving on to next question. Let's say you are building a 3-tier web application, like with a front end, with an application and a database layer. What will be your methodology to eliminate any single point of failures in that architecture?
So to be honest, I don't have a developer background, and I've never built anything related to front end, back end, so I cannot give you more examples around that. But what I can tell you, based on my preparation for Solutions Architect Associate exam, is that so I built the website, like WordPress website, and there what I did, I created the virtual private cloud VPC, and then I created 2 availability zones, and I put there. If we're looking like for application layer, I try to have several EC2 instances, like virtual machines. So it's not, so if one availability zone goes down for whatever reason, I have I don't have a single point of failure. So other availability zone with the same logic will be available with the application layer. And then with database layer, I put the database in a private subnet, and like for security reasons, I don't give the access to the internet. So I locked it in the private subnet. And again, when I was doing that, I used Amazon RDS, which is relational database service, and I toggled on multi-availability zone as well. So it is like once whatever I'm doing in one availability zone, it will be replicated automatically to the other one. And because for that specific use case, I was creating relational database management system, like it was relational database where I used MySQL database.
Okay. So while you were building this, like a WordPress website, and you talked about application layer having multiple EC2 instance across availability zones. So when a request used to come for the application layer, how would you ensure that they are reaching the right EC2 instances? Is there anything in between that you used?
Load balancers. So I had load balancers, I had route tables, I had security groups attached and configured. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more about load balancers. So how did you do that?
So there are different types of load balancers: application load balancer, elastic load balancer, network load balancer. It depends on the system level, based on my understanding as per now. Depends on the operation system layers. And for that, for my specific use case, I used application load balancers. I thought I don't need to use NLB. So yeah, application load balancers to balance out the load between EC2 instances and between different availability zones as well.
Okay. So let's say, you have this functioning website working on, right? And one of the availability zones go down, or let's take different scenario. There are 3 instances in each availability zone. So you are spreading load across 6 EC2 instances across 2 availability zones, right? And you have a load balancer, which is load balancing across these 6 instances, as you said. Now, let's say 2 instances goes down out of those 6.
Okay.
So you have only 4 instances left. Okay. So is there any methodology that you have used while building this website to scale up again?
Oh yeah. So if it's absolutely necessary for my business to have 6 instances all the time up and running, then I would consider auto scaling, and I would put there the minimum number 6. So no matter what, it should not go down the number 6. But if it's not necessary because it's costly, like to have and maintain all the time 6 instances, then fine. Like I lost 2 instances, who cares? So, but for my use case, I did not use auto scaling because it was like for testing purposes. But I know that that feature exists, and I know that for some businesses it is crucially important to have specific number of EC2 instances. So auto scaling comes in handy.
Okay. And you touched upon a database, like you used multi AZ database for MySQL RDS, and that's a relational database. But there are scenarios, let's say specifically, like, and because your background is in data sciences, right? Uh, uh, so for big data applications, what would you prefer, a NoSQL database or a relational database, and why?
To be honest, it depends on the use case. So relational database, if you have specific structured data, then relational database is a great option for you. The downside of relational database is that it is quite costly, specifically to maintain. If your data grows to terabytes of size, then it will be quite difficult for you to scale because it usually scales vertically, where NoSQL database scales out horizontally. So again, it will depend on the business use case. if you have just unstructured data coming in and out, and some of the, let's say, column or some of the rows are missing, and it is okay for you to have like I like to say messy data, then NoSQL database would be ideal. Yeah.
So for a big data applications, for any data analytics scenario, which one would you prefer?
For big data, I would prefer probably NoSQL, but it depends, right? Because I'm preparing for the BeSA associate exam, and now I know some of the modern architecture which you can do, like data lakes. You can put everything in Amazon S3, and then you can perform your data analysis and data related things from one source, like Amazon S3. But if I rewind back and if I look at these two database, probably I would use NoSQL database in this case.
Okay. Now let's talk a bit about virtual machines and containers. Do you have any experience working with containers?
No, I've never worked with containers, but while I'm preparing for the exam, I know a few bits and parts from here and there.
Okay, so how would you explain, or just tell me the difference between a VM and a container, virtual machines and a container.
So when you're running, so it's quite tricky for me because I don't have a developer background, so I'm quite reluctant and hesitant to answer properly to this question. So when you have application code and you want to kind of deploy in batches, and it is easier to push in a production, the containers work better because you can kind of rewind back. You can make changes in one how it's called, not cluster, not node, pods, one pod. But where a virtual machine is that it's like literally virtual machine where you're running all the other resources. So it's not just the code, but some other components can be run there as well. So this is my understanding purely based on the theory.
Okay. You talked about like having some experience with R programming language.
Yes.
Can you talk about a bit more about what exactly did you do with that?
Yeah, of course. So in a previous company, like before this at any company, I was working as a sales assistant. I started at retail. But there I wanted to make data-driven decisions, right? And for that, I felt that I'm lacking some programming languages, and I picked up RStudio. First, I started with Microsoft SQL Server, and then I learned about RStudio to make data analysis. And for that, I asked in that company to take additional responsibility and to manage their daily big data coming from different stores in central London. And I started to analyze in RStudio and then making predictions and setting the right key performance indicators, KPIs, across different stores in central London. So I was running, I was building the dashboards, making analysis, and predicting the future sales based on the current data.
Can you give a specific example of the kind of analysis you did, and or a prediction that you made based on the analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason also why I wanted to kind of learn RStudio and make the prediction, because my manager at that time, she wanted to put specific supplements and at the specific rows of the and shelves on the store, where I was thinking that based on the customers that coming and asking about specific supplements, it needs to be in somewhere else. And for that, to prove my point and to justify what I'm thinking is right, like gut feeling is not always enough, of course. And I decided to make this analysis to see what is the specific product is selling in specific store. And I try to do correlation between the product and the region. For example, I had in central London, there was a store which was surrounded mainly by the students, by the colleges around. So mainly in that region, we were selling more about supplements, about multivitamins, which is kind of you can make sense because students are taking like vitamins not to get sick and like to boost their productivity, etc. While in the other part of London, where it was surrounded by general practitioners like doctors, etc., other types of supplements were selling. So I made a correlation while making the analysis in there. I took the data based on the supplement type, like is it related to bones, is it related to heart or brain, and then the zip code of the store, and then I saw that how this data is changing over time, and I made and I ran the ggplot to in our studio, and I made the dashboards, and then showed that one supplement which is selling well in one store will not necessarily be sold in the other store, just because of this population of the people.
Okay, that's good. So I understand that this would have not been, how did you come about this idea to do this analysis?
So to be honest, when I started there as a sales assistant, like on the shop floor, but because like I was talking to customers and listening customers' feedback, what they're saying, and the actual feedback about the products, I noticed that sometimes we're putting supplements just because of their price range. Like if it's very expensive supplement, it needs to be at the top. While my personal opinion at that time was that we need to have we can't just differentiate it based on the price, but rather we need to put based on the data and customers' feedback. So I heard the customers what they're saying, but when I was telling to my manager that customers, they want to kind of see these products here on the shelf, which is easily accessible, my manager wasn't convinced, because there are other points in the back end that I didn't know, like marketing point, like some contract with that company that we're putting at the shelf. So my manager wasn't convinced, and I wanted to prove my point and back up customers' feedback with something. So that something came up at that point, that I needed some data related thing, and I couldn't do it in basic Excel spreadsheet. And to be honest, I'm not really good at it. So I thought, let me learn something new, something fancy and something more accurate. So that here came our studio, and that's what I did.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Good to know.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Let us switch gears and move to some behavioral questions. I will be asking a few scenario-based questions, and if possible, try and answer them in a star format. What was the situation? What task? What action did you take? And what's the result?
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So give me an example of a complex problem you solved with a simple solution. What made the problem complex, and how you know that your solution has addressed that problem?
Okay, that's an interesting question. All right. Okay, so let me give you an example from the current company, at any company that I'm working. So as an application support engineer, we're working as like agents, troubleshooting customers' requests, and we have a specific platform where we're receiving customers' inquiries. We call it tickets, and like we have specific queues, like open tickets that you're currently working, pending tickets that you are waiting for the reply from the customer, and on hold that either customer said I will come back to you in 2 weeks, or it's under product revision, that future requests, or etc. etc. So the problem was at that time when I joined and when I firsthand experience is that when one agent is going on vacation, some of the pending tickets or some of the on hold even tickets can be open. Like if customer is replying to that email, it will show on the agent's dashboard that this ticket is open. So what we had at that time as a strategy, that if Jamila is going on vacation, team leader is responsible for the ticket, for the open tickets in her queue, to take and work on it. So when I was on vacation, of course, I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on my team leader. First, because he was in a different time zone. He was working with US time zone while I was working with UK time zone. And most of my customers, they were based in and they were working with UK time zone, right? And when I was in vacation, I was constantly checking my queue to make sure that my customers, whatever they're replying, it is in my queue and I can at least route it to the person who can pick it up. But not always was the ideal case, because if the customer is replying 9 a.m. UK time, those people in the US, they were asleep. So it means that customer waits for at least 4 or 5 hours before an agent even notices that request. So I thought it's a gap in the process. I thought it is not a good experience for our customer. And plus, it's not good experience for agents and for the team leader to be responsible all the time for these tickets just because someone else is going on vacation. So I thought to come up with some solution in this case. So I asked my manager if we can have some kind of a system integration or something where we can where it can be routed automatically to the people, or to notify the customer that this person on vacation and your ticket, your request will be processed soon, just to make the customer know that we received it. And if you haven't, because we had an SLA to reply to the customer's email within 2 hours. So while my proposal sounded reasonable at that time, it wasn't as easy as I thought. So I did some research in the market, what we can do, where how we can kind of make it smooth and kind of to solve this issue, so that the person who goes on vacation as well can rest and not check the queue all the time, what is open, what is not, right? So in that case, I found, so my manager said, yeah, let's do some research, let's come up with the solution, specifically what are the options in the market and what we can do about it and what is the downside, etc. So I found one company which showed ideally what we are looking for at that time. It's kind of an integrator to our current platform, and which can potentially which will route the ticket, which will send the customer. So once the agent sets in their profile that they are on vacation from this time to that time, it will automatically send the customer that this agent is like not available at the moment, but your request will be processed as soon as possible. And then every 2 hours or every 3 hours, it will update the customer automatically, and it will send the notification to other agents within the same time zone if there is any. If not, it will send to the other side of the support people. So this software as a solution was solving the problem at the time, but I needed more details to convince, of course, my manager that this is the best solution what we can do. And at that time, I did some research. I found out that this is a customer that we're currently working with. So we are building their financial planning in our platform. And I thought, why not to circle back with the account team, with the professional services who are building, and just to get more information about the customer, like how their business model is working and how we can help them as a company. And maybe we can just exchange our services. So I was able to get more information from ProServe, from other people, solutions architect within our company. They are all based in Canada, and I got all the details, and I proposed to my manager that this is the company, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're planning to do, and why not to connect with the company and ask, like, exchange resources, and let's see, maybe we can have an agreement, or maybe we can give them some discount and get some discounted rate for their services as well. So that sounded like a good idea to my manager. That's what they did. They went ahead, they talked to that company, and we decided to implement the solution. And currently we are using that solution in our system. And I can definitely say that it helped with the customer satisfaction. So our customer satisfaction rate was 85%, and it grew to 90%. Specifically when the agent was off at the time. And I analyzed that data by extracting from the platform we're using, and I analyzed it using RStudio. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Let me try and reiterate to understand that if I have got the story correctly.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So you're working as a application support engineer at any company, and you used to obviously work on the tickets, and there were queues, a different status, open, pending, on hold, so on and so forth. So the problem was that when a agent who was having, let's say, tickets in his queue went on a vacation, then that any pending or on hold ticket that is in his or her name, that is going to get open if the customer responds or provides the inputs, and then it becomes the responsibility of the team leader while the agent is on vacation.
Yes, correct.
Right. And obviously the team is spread across globe, so the team leader might be in a different time zone, and because of that, a 2-hour SLA might not be met in case, let's say, the agent was in UK and the ticket got open at 9 a.m. and okay, so that was a problem statement that SLA was being met, and obviously it was not a good experience for the customers and extra load for the agent. The solution that you thought about is that uh, integrate, somehow find a way so that the obviously customers can be notified, but as well as any open ticket is routed to all the agents within the same region. Is that correct? Or you thought about within anywhere in the world? I was a bit confused about that point, that when a ticket gets opened, to whom, apart from customer notification, to whom it is being notified to?
So it will start first to route within the same region. So at that time, it was only me in London, based in London. But then we started to hire more people in our London office. So it had the capability to route first within the same region to the agents automatically. So without relying on a team member to go and keep on my queue while he or she is working on their queue, it will automatically send these tickets to their queue. Within the same region first, and then if there is no one in the same region, like that person is sick or etc., it will route to the other region. But also once it's been routed, it will notify the person as well, like it's in your queue.
Okay. So that was a kind of solution, but obviously it is not easy to implement. So you thought about researching a third-party software to do that.
Yeah.
And that third-party software happened to be one of your client.
Correct.
Right. So let's say if it was that particular company would not have been your client, what would have been your approach?
I will try to make them our client. We have a great service to sell. I would definitely start talking to our salespeople, saying that, hey, there is a client, a potential client. Let's reach out maybe and just to see maybe that company is in their list, just to kind of get more information. Can we sell them and can we propose our solution while we will get their solution as well? Just to kind of exchange. When you are approaching the company with exchange services, it's probably more likely that they will agree to specific packages. That would be my first approach. If not our client, then I would see maybe if there is any like discount ranges, etc. If not, again, I would talk to my manager to see is there any other options we can consider, like in this range. Is the third-party software provider is the case or not? So
How did the collaboration, as they turned out to be your client, how did the collaboration work?
collaboration worked well because they were at the early stage. So they were not a mature client of ours. So our ProServe started to work on their workload. So the ProServe was building their entire financial planning in our platform. So I had all the details, all the pain points that the customer is going through. And I was trying to kind of make a relationship internally and to inform the ProServe and solutions architects and account team and everyone that once we want to kind of ask for their services and use their services in our company, let's treat this customer in a better way, let's say, and just let's try our best so we can kind of collaborate even better for the future. And once it's been kind of discussed and agreed, the collaboration was quite smooth. Yeah.
Cool. And you mentioned the customer satisfaction went up from 85 to 90%. So what metrics did you use to collect those, or what mechanisms you use to collect those like information from customers to measure the customer satisfaction?
Yeah, that's a great point, because we didn't have any. So on the platform that we're currently using for tickets, we have we usually, when the ticket is closed, it sends automatically to the customer how did the agent do, thumbs up or not, and the customer can leave a review. But it's not sustainable in terms of not all the customers are actually taking time and writing the detailed feedback unless they're pissed. So for that specific reason, I needed. So that software had an option where they do sentiment analysis based on the customer's latest reply, and it gives you kind of a dashboard, like positive or negative side of the things, like was it a positive experience of the customer or negative. A part of that, in the platform that we were using, we had a dashboard part where it says that how many times the agent is spending in one ticket and how long it took the agent to close the other tickets, and also the satisfaction rate, like the agent's rate as well, based on the customer's rating. So all this data is being in that platform, and you just click the button, you export that data. It's in CSV, and then export that data to RStudio. But with this integrated, it was easier because you get more information about the actual conversation based on the last ticket from the customer.
Cool. Okay. One last question from me, and then you'll have the floor for yourself to ask any questions.
Sure.
So tell me about a time when you discovered that your idea was not the best course of action. What was your idea, and why wasn't your idea the right one?
So I will try to I will try to make it as a continuity of what I said, because like in this case, it was a good idea in terms of like we implemented it, it's working well, etc. But before it actually worked, I had another idea where it didn't work. So in that specific case, let me give you a background that when the agent is getting a ticket from the customer, even if it's a simple question like FAQ, we didn't have at that time a specific place or specific thing to send to the customer in a timely manner, even if it's an FAQ. So what agents experience is they need to go to a specific platform or specific place, search for the article, knowledge-based article, and then copy that article and then send it to the customer. It's not good customer experience in terms of it takes time. Even like if the customer is asking, hey, my Excel is stuck at this point, or my formula is not working. It was not efficient for agent as well, because agent is spending time more from one platform going to another, copying, pasting, coming back, etc., etc. So at that time I thought, okay, why not to have again find maybe an integrator or something which can help the agent with this request, like just if you get these specific questions like FAQs, it will be easier for the agent to send to the customer. And my approach was at that time, let's move from this current platform to the new platform, which already provides, like so we were using for knowledge-based specific platform, and you can have tickets and receive tickets in that platform as well. So I thought, why not to consolidate them in one place? And I was kind of sure that all the other agents within my team, they are experiencing the same pain as I was experiencing, because, okay, this is an easy question. I need to go there. I need to find and send it back. And I told my manager that let's move from this platform. Why we are not moving? Because that platform has all the capabilities we need. Why to use both of them? I did not, at that time, I did not ask many team members across the geo. So I asked only my peer, because he was sitting next to me, and he was saying that yes, he is experiencing the same pain. And I thought, okay, all done. Let me ask my manager. That's what I did. That let's move from one platform to another. And then the correct point she made, that what about do you have any data that all the other people are experiencing? Do you have a customer satisfaction rate or customer response rate? I did not at that time. And also the other main important point was that it was if we move from this platform to another, we would lose the historical customer data, because we had a really good customer retention policy or customer retention time. Like we had one customer, like many loyal customers, let's say, right? And if we move from one platform to another, all the historical data that specific customer was opening, it will be lost, it will be gone. So while we can restore, put in a backup and put it somewhere safe, it's still not feasible for the agent to go back like 5 years back and look at the pain points that we were experiencing 5 years back, and maybe if there is any similarities that agent can retrieve. So this was a major disadvantage to move from this current platform, because all the historical data, to the new one. And of course, like my idea did not work at the time to move from one to another platform. But what resulted this is that my manager kind of became aware that this is a not the problem, but the challenge that agents are experiencing. And then I gathered data from that platform about the customer satisfaction and the reply rate that agents are spending on a simple, straightforward answer, just sending one document. And then I gathered all this data, and also I asked my peers across the globe what they're thinking, what would be good. Would it start with the question that would it be great to have something handy? Like if you have this question related to SSO, let's say, there will be something that you can just copy within the same platform and then send it to the customer. And yes, most of them said yes, it would be great. Like if we receive it, just send it to the customer, but we didn't have that at that time. So it gave my manager another idea to do some research, to do her own end result, which resulted in terms of she implemented with the in that platform, and I didn't know that feature exists in that platform to connect our knowledge base article system with the platform that we currently have. So once it's connected, and if the customer is sending, for example, SSO, that integrator recognizes the keywords, and it gives you like an options of the articles on the side panel. And then the agent can look at the side panel and see, oh, okay, so we see SSO is there, we see integrator is there. And then the agent can drag and drop the article to the ticket and send it to the customer. So while my idea to move from one platform to another was not ideal, and I completely understand, I had a couple of gaps in between that I didn't ask team members, I didn't gather all the necessary information for that matter, but it led to the better outcome.
So, who provided this new idea of having an integrated version? Not move, but having an integrator. So, whose idea was that?
It was my manager. So while I expressed my concern that we are experiencing this challenge, etc., it was her who decided to have something. So yeah, I didn't know that that feature exists in that platform. Yeah.
So, from this whole experience, what was your learning?
Oh, I learned a lot, to be honest, specifically when I started to propose this solution, like this, to move from one platform to another. I was new in the company and new in the industry, and I didn't know that you need to have really good data to back up whatever you're saying. Specifically, like first talking to your team members and then backing up with customer data as well. And also, first try to understand what is possible within the same platform, like all the ins and outs. And then if you hit the limits, like it's not possible, like for this platform to have this, then to look externally. So this was my real kind of learnings, that be frugal is what you have, not just integrate all the third-party softwares in your platform and just be happy. Yeah, that was my learning.
Cool, cool. Okay. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much that I have. And we have more than 5 minutes for you. If you have any questions for me.
Great. Thank you, Prasad. I really enjoyed the interview with you. It felt
Likewise.
really,
Loved it.
thank you. It felt really like I've known you for ages. And to be honest, I'm your active and follower. I'm your fan on LinkedIn, and I know that you're sharing a lot of nice tips and tricks. And I wanted to ask a few questions. And I, when I saw your name that you will be interviewing me, I was really excited that I can ask questions in person and get some information from you alongside to the useful LinkedIn tips you are sharing. So if I may,
Yeah,
I
please.
wanted to ask two things that you like in your role and two things that you don't like. And also, what would you recommend as a new joiner SA to do? Like, what are the challenges as a new joiner, and what would you recommend in this case to overcome these challenges, or to be prepared at least to these challenges?
Okay, a lot of questions. Let me break it down. Uh, Two things that I like about the role, uh, solutions architect, and two things I don't like, and then tips for new joiners who are going to join as solutions architect, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Let me try. So things that I like, I'm not sure if it will be two or more. There are many more things than that I like about this role. But yeah, being a solutions architect, it gives you uh, opportunity for you to, I see it as doing the right thing for the customer or innovate on behalf of the customer. This is a quite technical role, but along with technical, it's a customer facing role,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you would be interacting with customers a lot externally, which I like, and that's why this is something that I like, interacting with people. uh, the other thing that I like is no 2 days are the same, like because we work with multiple customers. Each customers have their own unique set of problems that needs to be solved, right? So though we keep gaining by looking into multiple issues, but every new issue helps you to think about new solutions, new ways of implementing things, and it helps you to keep growing your knowledge base. So like compared to other roles that I have been before, this is keeps me more on my toes, right? uh, and it's a continuous learning process here. There are times when your customers are a lot more knowledgeable than you, so you need to ensure that I block my a half a day in a week to ensure that I am learning new things, right?
Mhm.
uh, Other thing, okay, now let's I can talk about it a lot, but let's switch gears and talk about the things that I don't like about this role.
Mhm.
Sometimes there is a lot of travel. uh, I, I used to love it initially, right? With COVID, things got slowed down. uh, but what happens is that I switch on video 9 a.m. in the morning, and it's a back-to-back calls with the customers. So uh, it sometimes gets difficult to be on videos for a long time. And now when the COVID has gone back, and it has started a lot of traveling, so it's good in some parts, but in some parts it requires you to uh, balance things, right? uh, Other thing that I don't like about this role, though I used to love traveling, but yeah, where it got too much at a moment. But other thing that I don't like, frankly, there's nothing much that I don't like about this role. I love being in this role. It gives me opportunity, obviously, to meet other people's. Apart from things that we do, like meeting with customers, it gives me opportunity to work on things, to scale things. For example, speaking at summits, public speaking engagements, or writing technical articles, so on and so forth. So those things that I love, I get to do here. Um, Obviously it depends upon your team to team and what goals you have, but uh, in solutions architect role, you can choose your own path about how you're going to spend your time and how much time you want to prioritize on what things. There are so many things to do that you can prioritize the way you would like, and you need to be good at, and this is a tip that I give to the new joiners, learn prioritizing things. uh, uh,
Mhm.
there are so many things to do that you need to ensure that when you're out of bandwidth, a call
Mhm.
for help, let your team members know who can help you out, reach out to others. So for the first few months, so always think about this, you are there here for a long run. So for the first few months, uh, ensure that you're taking that time to ramp up, to understand the whole business and network with people, right? So right now when go into a customer meeting, there is no way I can know about everything that the customer asks. So I I'm honest with them, and I tell them that I don't know, but I'll find out. But what I have done internally here is that I have such a good network of specialists that as soon as I'm back, I know which person to reach out to directly, so that that person can help me out. I know a AI ML specialist, I know networking specialist, I know. So the things that, so I'm a specialist in Microsoft workloads, right? I do not know a lot about AI or networking or any other like IoT kind of things, but I know exactly which persons to reach out to. And that's possible because yeah, I do network a lot within and outside of the organization. So that's one thing as a solutions architect you need to become good at, actually. Apart from increasing your own learning, being knowledgeable about your own domain. Does that help?
Thank you very much for that. I would say this was probably the best experience I had in my life. And even if I pass great, I will ping you internally. If not, it was really my honor to get to know you and to be interviewed by you. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the seamless interview process. I felt I was initially very anxious, but you made me feel comfortable and released. Thanks a lot for that.
No, thank you, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
uh, you too.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye. Great job.
Thank you.
Cool. Let's do
Cool.
one thing. Let's probably it's 10 o'clock, so let's take a
Mhm.
break for. Let's take a longer break today. I know, would have been tough for you also, and I'll also go through the notes that I have taken. Right. Let's take a 10 minutes break and let's
Mhm.
reconvene back, and then let's discuss debriefs about it.
Yeah,
Cool.
grill me, grill my answers. I'm absolutely fine, and I was absolutely role playing. Like some of the questions, I pretended that I don't know and gave some vague answers, etc. So please feel free to point out everything. Um, I'm open to be vulnerable and to be criticized publicly live on Twitch. Go ahead.
That's very brave of you, very frankly, yeah. But thank you for that.
Thank you. Of
It's
course.
not easy. I felt, like taking a live interview is more easy than taking a mock interview. Like from an interviewer perspective. So I'm sure it would have
Yeah.
been difficult for you too. But yeah, great job. Let
Thank
me share my screen with a timer. Let me see if I can do that.
you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we are back. Uh, Hopefully, JJ, you had time to catch your breath.
Yes, yes. I had time to get some breakfast for my daughter. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all good. Thank you.
Uh, cool. So, guys, let's start the debrief. And Alex, I know that you have been answering a lot of questions on the chat, quite engaging. But yeah, would you like to share your feedback first on, like how was the overall interview, both
Yeah,
from
sure.
interviewer as well as interviewee perspective?
Yeah, sure. Uh, Besides answering questions on the chat, I had to behave because I didn't know if you would put me on the camera without, prior notice. So, all right. Yeah. So, guys, you did great. Not only Jamila, of course, you did great as an interviewee. Prasad, you also did great as an interviewer. Because we are in such a setting that it's a mock interview. We are not just kind of evaluating Jamila if she's allowed to keep her job or not. But yeah, it's also kind of to demonstrate what people have to expect from that format. And I think you both did great actually to demonstrate. And that role playing, I also want to emphasize. It was good when you, Jamila, kind of didn't give like a prescripted answer which didn't sound natural, because people, even to the degree you answered, people freaked out on the chat, like if they're good enough for a real interview or not. So if it would be like a prescripted, scripted and staged everything to the point, then I don't know, it's like it's just setting an unrealistic bar, which, yeah, nobody can jump. So great that you did it. You both did it so natural that you demonstrated the format, that you also demonstrated how to take those questions. And then kind of I'm not gonna do like a debrief like we normally do. I'm gonna make like a little bit of a mix of what I observed in this interview format, and I'll comment on the interview format itself, based also on the questions folks asked on the chat, and on the answers. The answers I could capture, because I have to admit I was sometimes a little bit distracted on the chat. So this is not what normal interviewers do. So if we interview people, we don't chat. Kind of on some random topics. So you normally are very focused and you're taking and capturing each and every note. And I hope that Prasad was exactly in that mode. So yeah, you can go deeper in the question, in the answers. Right. So starting right up. So the introduction you made to yourself was good. It was concise and was not too long-winded. It was easy to capture, like why are you here? What kind of experience you had in the past, and how kind of you see yourself in the role. Then I especially like motivation part. So Prasad asked you about like what's your motivation, and you turned it around in such a beautiful way that you didn't like start like people often start with the motivation, like, why do I want this job? And you turned it around, and you could say what you bring to the table, why this job is also a good fit for you. It was like, whoa, okay, extra point goes to JJ now. Right. Yeah, so that was great. Then you guys started into the technical part, and so I want to comment on the technical part. On the technical part, folks, don't expect. First of all, of course, don't expect to have exactly these questions. Second, Prasad did a great thing that he demonstrated how this interview format is very sort of tailored to a particular candidate. The background of why we ask people like, what did you do in the past? What's your background? Is to highlight what are your strengths. Normally, interviewers not supposed to kind of search for your areas where you don't have expertise and show it, you know, like rub it into your face. See, you don't know this, so you bad. No, it's not the intention. The intention is to understand where your strength is, and then Jamila could already highlight some in that short introduction, and it kind of went naturally into the technical part. And then in the technical part, it's also demonstrated really well when Jamila picked up a question, like for example for somebody told me that I'm HR in this, so it just stuck to my mind. HA, so high availability, like high availability versus disaster recovery. Jamila had depth there, so she went like again on a concise, good explanation. What are those things? Did a definition, and at some point stopped and asked like if she needs to go even deeper. And that was kind of a natural discussion, and Prasad saw, okay, there is a depth into it. And then they went like one level deeper into this whole story, into RTO versus RPO. At some point, I started making notes for myself because I just learned some stuff, which is great. Thanks a lot to both of you. And yeah, so this is like, it just went into that area, and Jamila just demonstrated, okay, this is the area where I feel confident, I have depth, and at some point it was just, I felt like it was just like a check mark. Okay, you know that one, let's move to another topic. Then when you went to web application and like 3-tier, I don't remember exactly how you formulated the question, but like 3-tier application, something like that. Great thing Jamila did. You didn't start to making up stuff in the area where you don't have depth and expertise. You just directly said, okay, dude, I know general stuff. I'm not a developer. I don't have this background. And this is very cool because then you don't. The worst thing you can do, you could try to pretend the person you're not, because it's going to be visible that you don't have this knowledge. For some reason, you try to convince people that you do, and then it just hurts trust a lot. So yeah, so it was great. And also probably, I don't know if you've seen it. When Jamila said, okay, so I don't have like a great depth into it, Prasad didn't try to catch her on something. He didn't push her too much. He just tested out, okay, is there like a general understanding of this, like common concepts? There was an understanding of general concepts, but then he didn't kind of push deeper and deeper to see how she collapses there somewhere in between, database and the web server and I don't know, Java application. Like, what's the reason? The person already mentioned to you, like, it's not my area of expertise. So yeah, long story short, it's beneficial always for you to be honest with your interviewer and build trust. Answering, like, if you don't feel comfortable about one or another area, just say it. It's okay. In the end of the day, the interview will just kind of highlight your strengths, and yes, we all have weaknesses, and it's totally fine. Right, then this load balancer question, that was probably the most AWS related discussion there. To the folks on the chat, you might have gotten at some point a little bit of wrong impression. So AWS knowledge and AWS skills are welcome when you apply to a solutions architect position, but they are not the requirement. The requirement is that you understand the underlying concepts, that you understand like what load balancer is in general, what high availability is, and then if you know that, but you, for example, don't know AWS in particular, or you're like applying for AWS SA role, but you worked with some other cloud provider before, it will be relatively easy for you to transfer your knowledge and to rewire yourself to new services and so on. The most important part, and just want to emphasize it a lot, you need to understand the underlying concepts. So know what load balancer is, and don't freak out if you don't remember what's the difference between application load balancer and network load balancer. Although Jamila could handle all the specifics of that question, there was one, I think it was, you just, I don't know, mentioned it somehow wrong, or maybe I captured it wrong. At some point you said like the difference between those load balancers and why do I need to choose one over another is operation system layer. And I think you referred to OC, and that one is open system interconnection. So I'm guessing, but that's probably what it was. So yeah, but it's fine.
All right. Thank you for mentioning, Alex. I did it on purpose, so I didn't, of course, want to be perfect. Like I know everything. I'm just awesome here. Just praise me. Yes. I wanted to make a mistake, and I wanted to kind of be natural. So you and Prasad can mention it like it wasn't correct. Yeah. Because after the interview, interviewers are not sharing the feedback, right? But here you can all share the feedback, what went well and what was wrong, so person can relate.
Yeah, totally fine. Yeah, so but you did it so confidently that I had to ask myself, like maybe I don't know something.
Yeah.
All right. So up to the next one. So big data application and which DB you should choose in that thing. You went in a very general explanation, which was like a good one, like relational database versus NoSQL. But then you started kind of referring to, it depends on the use case, what you're gonna use. But use case was already given. It's big data and big, analytics. So it was a little bit of going around, but overall you didn't say any nonsense there. So what you said made sense already. So it's just like how you could improve that answer a little bit more. And VMs versus containers, again, the same thing. Like with web application, I really like and admire when people just say, I don't know. That's one of the hardest answers to swallow at some points, but you really need to learn how to do that, because it's gonna, it's gonna boost your career at some point. To say, I don't know, and I will check it up and I'll follow up with that. So, and at the same time, again, just to emphasize, Prasad didn't go on a rampage like, aha, gotcha, all right, so containers now, like half an hour containers inside out. Yeah, and then another good example in that format was a question about R programming. Don't think that I think that probably now I start relating to the questions in the chat. Somebody asked about like, are we going to be asked about coding? It's going to be a coding interview in it. R programming popped up because Jamila mentioned R programming. So she said, I have this field of expertise, then that's why she got this question. If you wouldn't mention, you wouldn't get the question about R programming. So I never got our programming question because I was smart enough to hide it that I did it in my university years. Yeah. So you you did good there. You provided your use case. It was maybe a little bit detailed at some points. It felt for me a little bit detailed and a little bit long-winded. So with distraction on chat was at some point a little bit hard to follow. Yeah, overall, I like the technical part. Was very structured from both of you. So shout out, and yeah, you guys did great. Now the behavioral part, and I'm almost done because I see that Prasad is kind of getting bored there. So the behavioral part, somebody asked like, what about those leadership principles? Are you going to be asked about leadership principles? No. Do you need to know about leadership principles? Yes. Why? Because in the behavioral part, you basically are grilled on leadership principles. Nobody mentions you that, and you don't hear like, let's go like to bias for action. What do you have to say about bias for action? No, you just get those leadership principles implicitly. And as we discussed on the chat, tell me how did you fail in the past? That's basically grilling on earned trust. It's right. LP implicitly embedded. So that's what it is. The stories there. So you guys did like 2 stories. Star on like with the star method and so on. I don't go into each and every of those. To my taste, they were a little bit too long-winded, and with all the distraction to the chat, I had at some point a little bit hard time to follow. So maybe if you just could make it shorter and maybe a little bit more explicit, like, okay, that was the situation, that was a task, and that's what I did, and that was the result. It would be easier to follow. I would probably, I could probably follow you better, and I could just, drill you further and ask questions like follow-up questions and get the data points I need if I would, focus 100% on what you're saying and not kind of being half part-time on the chat and part-time into the interview process. But yeah, it felt also that you provided relevant situations, and it's just more on the format and the length of the explanation you provided from what I've captured. What else?
And
so
just to add, Alex, to behavioral kind of part, we didn't prepare with Prasad or with anyone else.
Wow.
It was all out of the blue. So yesterday I was thinking what I might cover, like some scenarios I had in mind, but it all came out naturally. That's why probably it was longer, because I didn't specifically prepare. But for the actual interview, please do people prepare. Like have some example questions. You can find it just by Googling, and then prepare your scenarios. So when you are asked nearly the similar question, you can pull up your scenarios and answer in a better way. Today, I was not prepared. Yeah, like perfectly prepared. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I didn't know that. With no preparation, just thinking of stuff on the spot was solid job. And as I said, if I would be like 100% dedicated to the explanation, I could just pull out the data points easily, but just by drilling into what you said. Good things also they were mentioned on the chat. Good things to remember that emphasize you. So like use I instead of we. This is like a general recommendation at some points. Also, Prasad drilled into like whose idea was it? Like that's typical thing. You might hear like what was your part in that project? Those sort of things. Don't feel bad about those questions. It's just that in those agile environments, the majority of us are working. We emphasize we over I because we kind of work as a team. But then in the interview setting, you need to demonstrate your strengths, not the strengths of the team, because in the end, not the team is hired, you're hired. So, right. Then what else there? Yeah, so that's pretty much it, I think, from the site. I have a very good impression how you guys did it. It was fun to follow, and huge shout out to you, Jamila, because it's like it takes a lot to go on stage and just perform this, interview without also with some amount of uncertainty for parts you guys didn't script. So yeah, greatly done, nicely done. And I think like in a real setting, it would be even less stressful than in front of almost 100 people.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate your feedback. Thank you for your time. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, overall
Okay.
inclined. So
Inclined. Nice.
you can
Thank
keep your
you.
job.
Oh. But Alex, while you mentioned, like some people were mentioning in the chat that, and there is not a lot of like technical questions, so it will depend probably. Like Prasad asked a few technical questions, and then probably the other interviewer will ask more technical questions, or maybe phone screen will be more technical. So it doesn't mean that based on this 1 hour snippet I'm hired. So there are probably other stages that I passed, which I showed already technical skills. And this is just a snippet of what I know or what I don't know. So yeah, just wanted to add, yeah.
Yeah, it's a mock interview. It's just a format, like there will be questions like this, and how if a question like this. So if you have seen, there are some very specific technical questions, and there are some open-ended technical questions. It's about how you approach those questions, right? And where, as Alex mentioned, you need to be quite honest upfront about what you know and what you don't know, right? Uh, Sometimes it happens that in resume you upsell yourself, which is fine, right? But do not upsell yourself in at the start of the interview, because then interviewer will be probably like, if JJ would have said that she knows about R programming and she has done something, and if she would not have done that, then it would have been a difficult situation for her, because I am asking the questions about the things that JJ mentioned, and even if then she stumbles, then that would be where it will be a red flag, right? But like in general, I ask about microservices in my interviews, right? But when I asked about high availability question, she said that I am not from a developer background. Then though that question was in my list of questions that I had to ask, I never reached there at all, because she did already mention that she's not from a developer background. That is fine, right? It was about single point of failure, right? When you talk about single point of failures, one of the application architecture is you can use microservice architecture. She did not touch that, which is fine, but she was able to talk about the things that she has been learning about. She, if we talk about, though we are not, like explicitly mentioning leadership principles, but there are leadership principles that are being tested behind the scenes. She showed a really good learn and be curious, very good learn and be curious. And it's not very Amazon specific, it is in any company they would like to see your learning potential, that whether or not you will be able to, if you get a new task, you are able to take that up. And she showed that really well, and she showed that the interest, the motivation that they showed for the, you know ab- about this role was really high in terms of what she said, as well as she started learning about AWS, right? She's saying that she's preparing for AWS Solutions Architect Associate. That means that she does not only have motivation, but she's working towards that motivation. These things are not explicitly asked or explicitly answered, but these things comes out in natural conversation to understand is the candidate is heading in the right direction. But yeah, I'll also go through my notes that how Alex did from top to bottom, and let me see. From the intro perspective, strong intro. Sometimes what I see, that the intros are 10 minutes long about I started with this, and especially if you're an experienced employee, like if you have 15 years of experience, you can probably give your intro for 15 minutes. No, it's about the question that was asked was, give me a 1 minute rundown of your background on how you evolved into this role you are in today. So you need to talk about specifically to that, and this is the perfect opportunity about showing your strengths. As Alex mentioned, JJ Shid mentioned about her strengths there. talk about the things that you can steer the whole interview based on your introduction, right? So use that, and use that wisely. If you're going to talk about your introduction for 5 minutes, you lost the interviewer, right? So use that 1 or 2 minutes wisely about putting in the keywords that should register in interviewer's mind that they should be asking you questions about, right? But yeah, I really loved the way she structured her intro. Application support engineer trying to become a solutions architect. So right, so it seems that there is a like gap there. She is not in that role, but that's why the second question, that like, why do you think that she is fit for this role? She does not have that experience, but then she was able to show her motivation on that, right? Cool. uh, Difference between HA and DR, yeah, she did well. And by the way she was answering, I like interviewer got the confidence that yes, she will be able to dive deep. But it's, let's dive deep and see whether or not that confidence is real or fake, right? So let's test that. So tested that, it went good. Cool. uh, yeah, 3-tier web application, yeah, it went great. That's where it felt like, obviously she's out of her like depth there, which is okay. And this is where now there was, I think in the chat there was a question about what will be the interview difference between a solutions architect and a senior solutions architect. The question might be same. Depending upon the answer, it will be a role fitment, right? It will be the same question that will be asked to a associate solution architect or a solutions architect or a senior solutions architect or even a principal solutions architect, right? Depending upon your experience and like uh, your skills, the answers that you will provide will help the interviewer to calibrate you against what level you are, right? Like as JJ, based on the JJ's response, she's a good fit for associate as well as solutions architect associate, probably not for senior or principal, which is fine because depending upon the JJ's experience that she has, like less than 5 years of experience, right, in the industry. But if the same answer, let's say, is given by someone who is 15 years of experience, then probably it might not be the best way. With a 15 years of experience, you might be able to dive deep a little bit more for that particular question, because it's a generic question about 3-tier web application, right? And if you're gunning, let's say, for a senior or principal application, then you might want to include an example of yourself. For example, I was building this application for one of the company that I have been working for. In that, that's what we did to ensure that there is no single point of failure. If you can provide that a personal experience of yours, that will be really good for senior level roles. Cool. Next, describe it between VMs and containers. Yes. Uh, Very weak answer technically, but very good answer in earning trust, right? I don't know about it. As simple as that. But still, I'll give it an attempt. She attempted. Not a perfect answer, but she set the expectation right from the very beginning. I don't know about it. Good. Yeah. Programming question language, R language. So if you see, that is not a technical question. And it is not even a scenario based behavioral question. It's somewhere in between that line where I want to understand, or interviewer wants to understand the interviewee experience, that what they mentioned, have they actually worked on it or not. And if you listen to the response, right, yes, it was more detailed than required, but it actually gave the confidence to the interviewer that she is not faking it. She has actually done it. She has been passionate about it, and she has done something, and that's why she's able to speak about it in so much detail. Yes, it can be structured a bit better, but no negative points there. Very frankly, no negative points there. No SQL databases. Negative points. You did not hear the question correctly. The question was specifically about for big data applications, right? And when it is about big data applications, there is no structured data, right? So yeah, uh, it felt like you tried to keep the answer very generic. You did it purposefully. I know that you are a big data expert. I know that you did it purposefully, but that's where the room for improvement would be. Anyone who is like watching this, listen to the question carefully, right? If you don't know about it or don't understand the question, ask for the clarification in the question, right? Do you mean that whether we should be choosing SQL or NoSQL for big data application specifically or in general? Ask that clarifying question. If the interviewer says in general, okay, then what Jamila said was absolutely correct. You know, in which scenarios you will be using SQL or NoSQL. But if the interviewer says big data application specifically, they need to be more specific, either in telling the answer or telling that it's not my area of expertise. Either is fine, right? So that's there. Cool. Now moving to the behavioral side of it. For the complex problem and solution, yeah. So the answer was good. I was able to understand it. Could have been a bit more structured, but that is totally fine. I think answer was good. All the follow-up questions that were asked, you were able to answer, which is great. Uh, really liked your answer about customer satisfaction, how it went to 85% to 90%. See, when you throw in stats, and specifically as generic as 85% to 90%, it might feel like you're just throwing numbers for the sake of throwing numbers. So interviewer will try and understand what is the reasoning behind those numbers. So whenever we are data driven, but when we are like when you are actually like throwing some data in an interview, be prepared to back it up. If a question comes, then be prepared to back it up. We did not have time to drill more, but that's where in a real interview you'll be drilled more. Why do you think what specific changes helped move that 5% extra, right? Why only it moved only 5% extra? Why it not went from 85 to 95%? What extra things you would like to do to make this 90% to 98%? There is a lot many ways interviewer would drill you up if you throw those numbers. So be prepared for those answers, just not for the sake of telling some numbers, right?
And I can explain it now, Prasad.
I know you can. I know.
Fast.
I know you can. I'm just like, yeah. I know you definitely can, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and then and for the last question about mm, a kind of a failure story, a different way of asking the failure story, but it's a kind of a failure story. It's a good failure story. What I liked about it is that she owned it up a bit. The failure story, in itself, is not a very strong failure story because nothing catastrophic happened, right? It kind of showed it a semi quasi kind of stuff. I was thinking about something, but it was not the right way to do, but nothing bad happened, which is a okayish answer. Probably a good answer for associate or a uh, a solution architect associate. But if you go to senior or principal solutions architect role, when you have 15 years of experience, then there is no way you would not have done something that would have brought down the production, or done something that would have some more catastrophic effect than just I was thinking about something, but before even getting it implemented, we were able to save it, right? Have those concrete examples of where you exactly failed, what decision you made because of which there was an actual impact on the business, what was your learning, right? So if you say that nothing bad ever happened in those 15, 20 years, or nothing actually really, you never failed, then that would mean just two things. One, either you are lying because it cannot happen that you never failed, or two, you never stepped out of your comfort zone to try something that would make you fail. You're always been in your comfort zone. So ensure that whenever you're asked about a failure story, think about a good failure story when you have actually failed, and own it up. It should not be like uh, the customer was not satisfied because I suggested this, but the development did not implement the same thing. You are not there to shift blame of the failure, what happened. It's about you owning it up. So that's really important, especially for senior roles. The higher you go, you should be having a stronger failure stories. Cool. What were your learnings from that? A good answer. You were able to explain what learnings you had from that. That was really good. And I really liked the questions that you asked the interviewer. It's very important that you have few questions prepared for your interviewer. But what I did not like was blah 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 blah. Three questions in a row. You right? So take that time. Like interviewer also needs some time. He has been interviewing me for an hour, right? So I do have a couple of questions. The first question, just say the first question. Let interviewer answer the first question. Then the interviewer will definitely ask you, do you have any more questions? You say, yes, I have one more question. Go for the next question. So give that breathing space to the interviewer also. Uh, so that's my feedback. Overall, uh, inclined.
Thank you very much, Prasad. It's been a pleasure to be here and to be interviewed and grilled by you both. So the reason, and I will be honest, like in the actual interview, I was doing the same like I did, like because one of the interviewers, I knew her, like I was her follower on LinkedIn. She was very active, and when I saw her on the interview, I got excited that hey, like this is like a famous like celebrity, and she's interviewing me. And at the end, I was the same. Like I was asking questions, bam, bam, bam. Like, okay, I have like 10 minutes. I gotta ask as much questions, as many questions as I can. So here as well, I try to simulate that, okay, you are famous on LinkedIn. I'm excited and I'm asking questions. But yes, you're right. Doesn't matter how excited you are, you need to kind of take it step by step, because that is a person as well being interviewing you for an hour, also like focused on what you said, documenting it in the background. So usually interviewers are also saying, while you're talking, I'm taking notes, I'm not writing emails in the background. So you don't feel that the interviewer is typing and just doesn't give a damn about what you're saying, but actually they're taking notes. And yeah, it's a hard work for interviewer, for you, Prasad, to take notes, to actually dive deep, because at the end you need all this data to back up why are you inclined, right? Because in the panel there might be other people, all of them might be not inclined, but only you inclined. Damn, that's gonna be tough to explain why are you inclined.
Yeah,
So yeah, these data points are important. So give
important.
your interviewer enough data points to back up his or her decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know about JJU, but it felt like, doing a mock interview was more difficult than doing an actual interview. Yeah,
To be
not,
honest, yeah, because for the actual interview, if I have like a real actual interview, I had a Word document and I had all the possible questions that might be asked and all the possible scenarios. So when the question was asked, my problem was that during the interview, I didn't know which scenario to pull in. So I had like tons of scenarios based on the star, and I didn't know, okay, should I say this? Should I say that? And then I said this one, and then on the other interview during the loop, I was asked nearly the same question, but probably like formulated differently. And I was thinking, which scenario should I pull? So I was wobbling, not to think about the actual situation, but the scenario to pull in. So I totally agree. The actual interview was way easier for me because I was damn prepared. I had the full document, I had all the questions, all the scenarios. I went all over again and I watched all the YouTube videos, everything. So I was 100% ready. But for this mock interview, I was like, no, I will be not very much ready. I will be just natural, will make some mistakes. So let people see how people can be natural, can make
no, yeah,
mistakes.
even from, like, I totally agree, and it was very brave for you to, like, take that challenge. I thought it'll be easy for me, being an interviewer, but, like, doing it live, it's not easy. Uh, so if it was difficult for me, I'm sure it will be more difficult, a lot more difficult for you. But
but I'll be
Alex,
yeah.
sorry,
Mhm.
go ahead.
But I'll be honest, like when you asked the question about um, like there was like about auto scaling something, someone was hinting me on the chat saying auto scale. So I was like, yes, I got it. I will be talking about auto scaling, setting min max done. Well, I was about to think and say, but then I saw the hint there. I was like, yes. So people were on my side, Prasad. So I have a lot of thumbs
I
thumbs
was
up.
on your side. See,
I
interviewer
was.
always roots for the interviewee. They want them to actually pass the interview,
Yeah.
but yeah, Alex, I saw that you were answering a lot of questions, and during that time you also were able to capture all the feedback from both the angles. Kudos, man, that was really good.
No, thanks.
Absolutely.
Kudos to both of you. You did great, and especially Jamila. I mean, I so appreciate what you did, and I'm just reflecting on myself. This is tough to go live and to be grilled in public and to do the interview. Oh my god, it's like I don't know. I really admire your confidence. So really, really good. And about chat, it's like normally you like when you're with a group of people and you kind of distracted on WhatsApp or something, it's kind of a bad thing because you're not paying attention. But here it's like a good thing. I chat with people and people also appreciate that I can answer questions. So it's win-win situation.
Nice. And thank you very much,
Nice.
Prasad, for it was really seamless interview. And during my actual interview, I had the same experience. Like I was very nervous. I had like kind of shaking hands, etc. And the interviewer was really they were really nice and making me feel comfortable so I can give them the data they need and express myself as I am. So thank you for that, Prasad.
No, thank you. So yeah, no, this is actually anyone who is watching this and do interviews for your own company, right? uh, ensure that your candidate that you're interviewing is comfortable. That's when you'll be able to get the best out of the candidate, right? So that's what we try and do, we ensure that I remember my interview. It was second phone screen, right? And I was not able to log in into the chime on time. My chime was giving me problem at that time when I was uh, trying to log in. I got a call on my phone from the interviewer like 3 minutes into after the meeting started, because I was struggling with chime, and I was like, oh shit, I was so stressed that like second phone screen from Amazon and I am not able to log in time, right? I got a call. I picked up the call, and the interviewer, even it's so calm, Prasad, are you okay? Is it everything fine at your end? I'm like, yes, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to log in, and I was trying to explain, no worries, don't problem, calm down. If you are okay, we can have this interview over this phone call itself. But only if you are okay, or if you want me to reschedule, we can easily get it rescheduled. But ensure that you are, you are, it's a good time for you. I'm like, yes, this is a good time for me. And within like that conversation of 3 or 4 minutes with the interviewer, it really calmed me down. And then we actually went on to asking me the question, right? It felt like I know that person, though I am not seeing that person. It was a phone screen, it was on my call, and I was stressing out. It felt like it was a very natural conversation that happened, and it boosted my confidence. And I went into my own comfort zone in answering those questions. So if you are interviewing, and that was a learning experience for me, that how an interviewer can really make you comfortable to get the best out of you. So now when I try an interview, I try and follow those things. So that's what my advice, even as an interviewer, make your candidates comfortable.
That's it.
Okay, I
That's a
think
great.
we have, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip, Prasad. And I do remember during my interview, hiring manager, she is the bar raiser as well, and I was so nervous, like so damn nervous. And she told me, like, do you want to take 5 minutes before we start to have some water? And my voice was shaking. I couldn't properly put my things together. I was like, yes, that will be great. And she said, okay, that's fine, take your time. And then she start like once I start to drink, and then she started to ask, how are you, how have you been, where are you based, is it sunny in London? I was like, no. And then we start to talk about weather like for 2 minutes, and then I felt like, okay, like I know this person. And then we dive deep into the details. But it is very important. If not her kind of approach, I wouldn't be probably here. And I keep saying her this even till now, and she's saying, no, you were great. I was like, I wouldn't be great, I wouldn't be able to show how I am without you being like understanding and empathetic.
Cool. So we have 5 minutes left. Any other topic that we have, or I know there
Mhm.
was one topic from last time, which was how to find a mentor. I can quickly talk about that. Uh,
If you can fit it in 5 minutes, I think it's such a great topic to be covered. I don't know if you can fit it in 5 minutes. Go ahead. Why
let
not?
let me try
If
that.
not,
Like
Prasad, if not, if you have more content, then maybe don't kind of force it now. We can also upload it to the next session if audience will allow. It's up to you, of course.
okay, then let's hold it off. Like there are only a couple of tips which I could have covered in 5 minutes, but probably then there might be some follow-up questions which we might have to address. So let's hold it off. Uh,
Next session, maybe.
oh, someone is asking any suggestions on how to find a mentor. Yeah, next session for sure. And probably
It's not
we'll
the
try and
first time
start.
people ask, so don't worry about it. So it's been popping up all over again, all over the
Yeah,
chat. So
yeah. Oh, okay. So, Alex, while we have these 5 more minutes, any specific question that was asked by audience, which we would like to address it publicly here, so that it is beneficial for the viewers who view it offline on the YouTube.
yeah, the so it's not a question per se, but I really want to address it before we all go to our home duties and to enjoy the weekend. Um, I have a feeling. So I also asked folks how do they feel about the interview? Do they feel more prepared? Like do they feel stressed out? And yeah, they are stressed out. You've covered already that it's not hostile environment. That normally interviewers are very kind of friendly and welcoming and trying to set yourself at ease. But maybe you guys have some tips how Jamila, definitely you have some tips how to calm down and how to kind of don't stress out too much about those interview processes. Come on, you went live in front of 80 people. So maybe you can just share a little bit how to get this nerve settled and how to focus on the positive side of the interview process.
Jamil, do you want to start or should I start?
Go ahead, Prasad.
Okay. So obviously, it is personalized. Every person needs to find things that helps them calm down, right? Uh, and frankly, for me, when I was interviewing Amazon, it was a really stressful time for me. The amount of preparation that I did, and amount of thoughts that I used to have, and especially if you go into the further stages of the loop, 5 interviews in one day, that was really stressful. For me, what really helped was being prepared really well. You know, I practiced a lot. Like all the scenarios that I had, I used to practice them. I wrote them down in a paper in the format that Alex was mentioning: situation, task, result, action. And I practiced them multiple times in front of mirror, recorded them, practiced them with few family members, right? And that gave me the confidence. But even when you are in a interview, all that preparation is good, but it goes away when the question comes. So what I do generally is that I take a minute when a question is asked, irrespective of how stressed I am. If I take that minute to understand what the question is and to think about which scenario I should be answering and how I should be structuring, that helps me, right? In interviews where I have, like as soon as I hear the question, I start answering, I realize that I have not been structured. And because when I start while speaking, oh, I should have structured it better. That keeps on adding. It's a spiral downward of stress, right? That keeps happening. So to break that loop, take a pause, you know, structure your answer, and then start in that note. And once you start in that note, it will be a spiral upward thing because you are comfortable, you are able to explain, that what you need to speak next, and uh, it comes naturally. So that's what I do, like prepare well and take couple of like moments before, after listening to the question and before starting to answer. Even if the moment I have few failure stories prepared, the moment I hear a question about a failure story, I know what answer I need to give. But even then I take that time to think about how I should structure it, and then I go about it.
And also, just to add to your point, Prasad, there will be follow-up questions. So you cannot predict all the follow-up questions the interviewer will be asking you, and which exactly detail or what kind of word you will say, and the interviewer will drill down on that. So you cannot be prepared to every single questions. But what you can do, what is under your control, is, as Prasad said, have these stories written somewhere, prepared, like major stories in your career, right? Where you did great, where you failed, where you helped a team member, like some of the major like highlights within your career, and then try to remember properly all the details. Even like the details I provided in the previous star format video of ours, where I said like, yeah, I grabbed a taxi, I was troubleshooting from the taxi, like all these details even remember. Just like when you write this story back in on the paper, you need to think that every single details, and then when you say it to the interviewer, trust me, they will be able to find a way to kind of get the information and peel the onion further along. Absolutely, Prasad's tips and tricks around how to be confident and not freak out too much is preparation. But another point for me personally, maybe it will sound silly, but I developed this kind of thing when I'm really nervous or when I really need some kind of energy. I have a special cup, special mug, which is here, which was given to me by one of the women that I really love and respect. She's very influential and she's very in a good position, working in a high position back in my home country. That's given for me from her, and she's kind of my role model. And when I'm nervous, I try to drink something from that cup and feel that, okay, it will help me to ease. And I try to make like a psychological connection with that mug, that, okay, I drank the water, I drank the coffee, I'll be fine, everything is fine. And I was so damn nervous on live, right? And you saw me, I was a couple of times drinking, not because I needed to drink, but actually I was feeling that if I drink, I will feel better, and specifically from that mug. It's a silly tip from me, but it makes me feel better, at least like at this
No,
sense. Alongside
it's an important tip, right? Take that break and find any ways to take that break, a pause. If that conference is given by, like a psychological connection with
yeah,
something, do that. But when you take that mug, bring it, sip water, it gives your mind time to relax, right?
yes.
And then, if you are by chance in a downward loop, it'll break that loop, and then you'll be able to get back into the positive loop.
Correct. And if it's the environment that you're already aware, like the mug, like the environment, like your home office, it
Yeah.
will make you like kind of more comfortable. But if you are interviewing in person, again, as Prasad said, take a sip of water, try to kind of break that loop, and while you're drinking, think that you're doing fine. It's gonna be fine. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm like, while I was
it,
doing
it
it, I was like,
helps.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
fine. Yes, it does help. Yeah.
it really helps.
A controversial thing I can share real quick from my side. So what really helps me is to imagine what. So you're scared. You're scared because something could go wrong. But then imagine to yourself what's the worst ever thing can happen if everything goes wrong in that particular situation. I'm not gonna get a job. Okay. Anybody dies from it? No. You're going to be upset. Well, maybe how upset you're going to be if nobody dies. So, I mean, it's nothing like you're losing like everything in one shot. So, and then probably it might kind of put a little bit of this fear away, because if nothing bad or really bad can happen, then why to fear?
And Alex, let me add to your point that even if you don't pass, even if you don't get the job that you wanted, you worked hard for it. Even this experience will make you learn a lot and will help you probably with other great thing in your path that you don't know yet. So yes, while it might be frustrating that you didn't get a job, you prepared for months, for years, it was your dream job. As Alex said, it's not the end of the world. No one dies. yeah, maybe it is important for your financial situation, for your plans, but hey, you learned a lot. You got where you are, like with these stages, you're already showing that you're nearly there. Maybe for something bigger, maybe for something different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a very good point there. On the learning part, what I do as a best practice. So before Amazon interview, I was interviewing, quite a lot. I gave few other interviews before appearing for Amazon interview. What I generally do after an interview is that within that day itself, I take notes. What the question was asked, what answers I gave, whether right or wrong. I just dump whatever I have in my mind on a piece of paper. You can type it on, like if it's digital or a piece of, I'm a bit old school, so I have my notebook for those things. uh,
I have to.
yeah, what it helps is that, you know uh, do not judge yourself that whether you gave the answer correct or wrong. You can judge that after you get the interview result, which generally take 48 hours to 72 hours, right? But having those thoughts written up is going to help you when you're going to appear for your next interviews. You will be able to get the first of all a question bank that is being asked in different kinds of interviews. Like in one of the interview, there was a question about, I don't remember that term. What is that called? I'm not able to remember. Idempotency. Have you guys heard about this term, idempotency?
Not me.
Okay, so Google it. I was asked about this question in one of the interview, and luckily I was asked about that same question in Amazon interview first phone screen. And
Okay.
because, yeah, I was able to answer it I was not able to answer in the first question, but I googled it afterwards, and I was able to answer it really well with an example in Amazon interview. So you know and if I have not written those notes, I would have definitely forgotten about that question altogether,
Yeah.
right? So that really helps. Like after interview, what you do to prepare your interview is great, but what you do after interview is also really important to set you up for success in the long term.
Absolutely. That's a great tip.
Cool. I think, as always, we generally go for more time than it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So I'm just going to put that term that I used. Yeah, someone has already put that.
Mhm.
Yeah, idempotence. What exactly it is.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. It
Everyone.
was a pleasure.
Likewise, it
See
was my
you.
pleasure as well. And thank you, Prasad and Alex. It was lovely to hear your feedback. You didn't grill me enough, to be honest. I was thinking harsher feedback, but yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Thanks the audience
Thanks, everyone. See you
to
all
be so
Thanks,
next week.
engaged.
everyone. Bye. See you next week. Bye
Bye.
bye.